This is The A. I'm Reg Clay.
And Norman G.
This is The A, where we talk about life in the theater and the theater of life.
Yay!
As always, we are sponsored by Central Works, a new play theater headed up by Gary Graves and Jan Leifler. Central Works, reinventing theater one play at a time. We want to thank Central Works for sponsoring us and our wonderful consulting producer, Mallory Samara. I just talked to Mallory yesterday, and her boyfriend Carmelo is in a thing. I think they're celebrating 150 years of Gilbert and Sullivan at the Lamplighters, so I'm going to pump that. But we have a wonderful guest, Peter Abraham. Peter, how you doing today?
Good. How are you doing, Reg? Long time no see.
I know it's been 10 years. You and I, we were involved in not Central Works. It was Off-Broadway West.
Hedda
Gabler. That's right.
Wow.
And you were just fantastic. I'm looking at the poster right there. And I imagine you've been in a bunch of other things. Oh, yeah. I'll bring the poster. But what have you been doing lately these days?
Well, lately, not much theater, but been doing, other than my technology work, as far as acting goes, really just some small film stuff, auditioning for different, commercials and this and that. When you're in the union up in Northern California, it gets a little bit challenging as to, what the offerings are. Okay, now, some people, they, for whatever reason, they want to have a chip on their shoulder and gripe about it, but that's just the nature of the beast. If I didn't want to go down to LA, which is the belly of the beast, you just have to accept that and try to do whatever you can to stay busy, any aspect of your life, let alone the creative process, right? So that's just where I'm at now. Unfortunately, COVID has really affected a lot of the projects that have been going on. But my agent up here will reach out to all of us. That's JE Talent, and just like a couple of weeks ago, they held a massive Zoom call with probably about 180 of the different talents that JE represents, where a gentleman, his name eludes me right now, but he offered to, for about an hour and a half, do a workshop on self-taping, which we had been doing, all of us, as distancing ourselves, shelter in place and whatever you want to call it. But the funny thing about this whole self-taping thing is that even if COVID had never happened, self-taping was imminent because of just the way of logistics to be able to, yeah, sure, it's nice to go to see Nancy Hayes or Bo Burnett or Nina Henninger, which are the three main casting, directors here in San Francisco. But it's just because of technology, and there are things that you need to do so that you can really have a nice packaged presentation in the realm of an audition and to send to the folks. And basically everybody becomes their own director and producer in their in-home studio.
We've
It's
definitely
really
talked.
interesting.
Yeah, we've talked about that, the ins and outs, or the goods and the bads, the yings and the yangs of auditioning via Zoom or via tape, or doing a video and sending it out. And we'll talk more about that and more about you, Norman. How was your week? I know we've been embroiled in the Baldwin project, but otherwise, how are things going?
It's an interesting week for me. I've been in between. I finished my teaching stuff, and now I am starting more teaching stuff Tuesday. Tuesday? Yes, Tuesday. And also, I haven't been doing much modeling this year, so suddenly I've got all these modeling gigs. So I've had this little brief period in between, and I guess part of me is kind of sad to be finishing up the this first leg of the Baldwin piece. We
Yeah.
will finish today.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's only beginning, and I can tell, just from the energy of last week. For those who don't know, we were at the Peralta House, and I really thought it would be a very scant audience, but it was full, and it was vibrant, and I have to give compliments to you as a director. You really did an excellent job. You think a reading is a reading is a reading. Oh, what's the big deal? But it's amazing how some people can get energy, and also the material helps when you have good material, good actors, and an audience who are hungry for the material, which is, of course, the life of James Baldwin. Then you have some magic. I think we created a little bit of magic last week, and we'll do it again this week, later on
Yeah,
today.
I'm hoping it goes very well this evening.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the in between, I have to go to back to Peralta for the there's a free showing of I Am Not Your Negro at
Yeah,
2 o'clock.
I remember
So
seeing that a couple of years ago, ironically, when Berkeley was in the midst of I think there was a right-wing protest, and right wingers and left wingers going again. Really, this is sort of the beginnings of the culture war, or at least the culture war coming home in the Bay Area. I guess you don't have to deal with that, Peter, because you're not in the Bay Area anymore, are you?
No, I'm here in Potrero Hill, San Francisco.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, I don't know if you remember this, but 2017, I was in Berkeley. I was seeing the documentary "I'm Not Your Negro," and apparently
Uh-huh.
some white ring. I forget who the speaker was, but he went to Berkeley to give the speech. This is just as Trump was had just been elected, and I had never seen it before. Actually, you'd think that we're in a bubble of this liberal bubble, and all these right wingers were protesting against you know um, people who didn't want to hear hate speech in Berkeley, and that was really sort of the beginning. And we're still living with that even right now. I don't know if you remember
No,
any of that in
yeah,
2017.
I vaguely remember it, and I remember telling a friend of mine who's a little bit more. I consider myself, just for the record, a centrist. That way, I can bash on both parties wholeheartedly, and I feel good about it. I just turned 60 last week. Not that I
congrats!
look, not that I look it,
What are you talking
but
about? This
my
is
No,
exactly
you
what
look
60
great.
looks like.
my point is
Gotta
that,
own that.
but this is really weird that you bring this up, because I woke up this morning, not to digress too much, but I was in this incredibly vivid dream where I was involved somehow with Donald Trump, and I was wearing a suit, and there was a bunch of other people who were suits. Now, subconsciously, maybe I was a plant. Maybe I was there to thwart that lunatic. I don't know. That didn't blossom, because you know how dreams are just so nebulous, and sometimes they look like they're clear, and then all of a sudden, you're kind of like a Twilight Zone thing. But I going back to what you're alluding to, I honestly believe that, and many other incidents that followed, weren't necessarily uh, Trump's doing, but they're at least 2 to 3 degrees removed from he and all of his sycophant whack jobs out there who tried to do as much disruption as possible. And you know, he he himself, I call him President Clown, the grandstander, was a pathological liar, and he has all of these followers in many different assortments all over the country that follow in some whatever cookie cutter process to pretend like they're the real Americans, and they're not. They're
Yeah.
just a bunch of whack jobs,
No, no,
you
no.
know.
You're totally right, and I totally hear. You're talking about you being a centrist. I mean, I really think this is more about extremism, and there are extremisms on
Yeah.
both the left and the right.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can even go back to Newt Gingrich and the contract with America, and the extremism protesting Clinton's election and Clinton's presidency, and then the Swift voters who tried to derail John Kerry's campaign. I mean, it goes on and on.
Oh,
And
totally. It goes on and on and on, and even today, literally just the other day, because Biden wants to appoint an African American woman to, the Supreme Court. Uh, you have yet another spineless coward like Lindsey Graham, who, if you remember his words right after Trump was, no, prior to Trump being elected, on how Graham was, completely grilling Trump And all of a sudden, Jekyll and Hyde, he flips over and now becomes his ass kissing, you know, crony. And Graham the other day said, wow, the Democrats have really gone far left radicalism, blah, 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 with this nomination, and, you can slice and dice and make of it what you want. There's a lot of wink, wink in there. And you know that, so.
Yeah, yeah. And we can translate, we can go into current events, because we do go into current events, because when we talk about theater, but also theater reflects what's happening in the world today.
It has
Uh
to. It has to be an agent. Yeah.
yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Well, I mean, obviously the biggest news is the war in Ukraine. There's an old saying in World War II, when Germany went into Poland, the cat jumped, and because everyone had been waiting for something to happen, an escalation to happen, and this week the cat jumped. Russian forces are in Ukraine, and they're about to go into Kiev, although there's some encouraging news that the Ukrainians are fighting, very, very hard. I've been reading.
They're
I was
they're
like,
pushing back really strong. Yeah.
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 Um, I don't know if there's much to talk about. I was reading about why aren't we
Well,
sending
they
forces?
he agreed this morning to well, not agreed. Well, supposedly they've agreed to a ceasefire, or agreed to meet to talk about a ceasefire.
Oh, you mean Putin?
Yeah,
Okay.
Zelensky and Putin have talked about having a ceasefire. I just saw that this morning.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it, because I think
Agreed.
that. Go ahead.
Agreed. No, I agree.
Yeah, because Putin is, we can look back at, and usually I will go onto YouTube videos, and there are all sorts of videos on World War II. We will always replay World War II as if it's one of the greatest. We don't want to talk about Vietnam. We don't want to talk about the wars that we lose and the wars that create controversy, but we want to talk about the greatness of how we were in World War II. And Putin is really of the cloth of, I mean, he's almost it's almost as if he's a reincarnated Stalin. I mean, not that there are any gulags or anything like that. But Peter, I don't know if you have a take on this. Now, you're from Iraq, and
Yes. I
so
was
I'm.
I was born in Baghdad and emigrated here uh 55 years ago, 2 weeks removed, back in February of 67. We came here. A lot of our family were already here, so we were just part of that
What,
latest sort
what,
of
what,
iteration of emigration.
yeah, were you guys escaping I think, was it the Iran-Iraq war around that time? I know
No,
something.
no, 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 no. Iran-Iraq War was 79,
Okay.
Right.
80, after the overthrow of the Shah. We just came in a sort of natural sort of migration that happened with my family. You got to remember, uh, this is partly important. I'm of Assyrian descent, not Syrian, but Assyrian.
Wow,
Uh-huh.
So
that's
the
even further
Assyrian
back.
Empire goes way back.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So Assyrians, right after the Armenians and Chaldeans, were the first kind of handful of tribes in 56 to 60 AD who converted into Christianity. So that was when all that happened. Um, so yeah, I mean, Baghdad at that time was an international hub. It didn't have extremism, and all that. Christians, Muslims, Sephardic Jews who look like me, or Palestinians, not the Eastern European ones, all hung around together and drank coffee and tea and talked business, music, food, and things change. That's for another day in conversation, but um, the the nefarious elements that turned over the Middle East still exist, and Putin is part of that. If you read really close into what he's doing, and why would Fox News, for example, side with him and call Biden, this coward that can't do anything? It's like there's something really, smells rotten in Denmark here, because we know that Fox is just an opinion show with a bunch of clowns trying to get more ratings and money. That's all they're all about. But I want to just segue this into going back to theater. Sometime in the near future, I honestly feel, however I can input, is that we have to continue as activists, because I used to work for Greenpeace for many years and get arrested on that front. So I am an
Wow,
activist before
that's
I'm an
awesome.
actor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to be able to have some sort of writings that aren't necessarily tribalism, but about us, the U.S. taxpayers, who can fight against the military-industrial complex. I bring this up because I think that, without these people's stock portfolios that include Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, and a slew of others, you can't have these nice dividends without having all of these insane military activities, you know. And somewhere in there is a huge pile of corruption, and some of it's false flag. I don't want to get into all the other stuff like 9/11 and this and that, but that's for another conversation. Um, we are still minions for the military industrial complex. I mean, put it this way: if all of this technology that these companies are bestowed with, if they could apply it towards our infrastructure and helping kids with a new brand of education that, sort of comes into confluence with the way technology is, as opposed to continually building new types of weaponry for what? We're not going to be attacked by aliens, you know? We're like trying to beat the crap out of each other just so that we could raise our stock portfolio. What the hell's going on here?
Yeah, no,
Singing my song.
yeah, no, I totally agree, and it's something that Eisenhower warned us in his very last
Yeah,
State of the Union address. And
JFK also. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of money to be made for a war. Peter, your camera is sort of cutting you off a little bit. I don't know if you can adjust it. If you can't, then don't worry about it. Um,
How's this?
Perfect. Oh, that's awesome. We just want to get the best of you.
That's what a
Hey,
60-year-old guy
who
looks
doesn't
like.
want to get the best of me?
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right. And we've had so much. I was reading an article that we've had a long time of peace where we haven't had any major wars, especially with any major powers. There have been smaller wars with smaller countries, but this is really the first time. And there's another article saying that the U.S. won't send troops because we're afraid of nuclear weapons. They have, I think, 6,000 or 8,000 nuclear warheads, and
Mhm.
it's very, very possible that Putin could say, push the button. I'm hoping that what
But I find that to be a threat. Come on, seriously? He really is going to throw a bomb. I find that ridiculous. I cannot believe it.
yeah, I find it hard to believe too, but I think it's enough of a threat for Biden to say, well, I'm going to fall short for sending troops, which is something I think the Ukraine wants.
Of
Yeah.
course they do. They need
Yeah,
help.
yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
sending troops is sort of colloquialism, if you want, or whatever
Yeah, I guess we're
euphemism,
in the drone.
because we
We're
already
in
have
the
them.
era of
Yeah.
drones. Yeah.
Yeah, we already have troops there.
Right.
They're called U.S. bases, and they've been there eons, right?
Yes.
And there's also different types of nuclear warheads that are mini nukes. You don't need a lot to make a statement.
Right.
And there's some things that have happened in the recent last 20 years that I believe were done by mini nukes. But I think that the overarching gripe by Putin is the fact that, hey, Russia's not in Cuba anymore, which is 90 miles from Florida, but you guys are here. See, Russia isn't here anywhere. Yeah,
Right.
sure. I mean, we're neighbors with them as far as Alaska, like what's her name, Miss Baked Alaska used to say. Uh,
Yes.
Sarah Palin. Yeah.
I could see Russia from my front porch,
Yeah,
but
I mean, we're not there because we're encroaching. A lot of these countries want us there because they want a big brother to help us, to help them from the bully.
Yeah,
Because
I don't know. There's some of that, but one of the things I was reading about was the nukes. A number of these countries, including Germany, have said, you know what, we'd actually like those things out of our country. And the United States has said, oh, no, 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 you don't. And they twist the arms of NATO, and NATO says, well, no, we kind of do need them there. But there have been a few countries who have said, we actually do not want those bombs in our country.
right,
And we got them there. So, yeah, they're there because we're going to help them, but we're also there because we're throwing money at them and we're twisting their arms and kind of we're strong arming. I mean, this has all been reduced to this ridiculous good and evil fight, and it is anything but that.
Yeah, not to
Right, right.
I hear you. And to
You
lighten
know,
up, yeah, to lighten the
yeah.
mood a little bit. I mean, I love these talks, but I'm sure folks who are listening to the A podcast like, oh my God, can they stop talk about
Talk about some theater, damn it!
right? Um, so
Yeah,
in
not
light of
political theater.
right, exactly. So in light of news, you guys heard about Tank the Tank?
Oh yeah, the
Yes,
bear.
the
Yeah, the
bear.
bear. Apparently, there are
That
multiple
rascal.
bears. Apparently,
Right.
Yeah.
scientists have determined that the DNA is found on, I guess, hair follicles from this bear. It
Yeah.
says there are multiple bears
Yeah.
attacking the North Bay, and although it's funny, I mean, no
Hey,
one wants the
Black
bear to
Bear
be
was being
euthanized.
profiled. They were profiling the Black Bear.
Yeah, I know. You know, black bear lives matter, man.
Yeah,
know?
That's what I wrote. I actually posted
By the
that.
way, there is the original Tank, and then he's got a couple of brothers who are stand-ins for him when he's tired and has to go chill for a while. They come in. So
and
you know.
I'm sure they're like, hey, don't kill me. That was that bear.
Is one of them Thomas? Thomas the Tank?
Thomas yeah, some folks will remember that. Of course, the millennials will be like, what's going on? And then there's also the Tinder swindler. Have you heard about this guy?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that jackass on that Netflix show. He's unfortunately, even though my last name's Abraham, I'm not Jewish, but Assyrians and ancient Hebrews share a lot of similar traits. And some of my Jewish friends were really ashamed of him because they would be accused of being self-hating Jews because they realize that Israel has actually become, believe it or not, the hub for a lot of crime. And you wouldn't know that unless you peer in closely. But this guy, he's just forget about all that other stuff I mentioned. He alone, he's a sociopath, and we have a lot of our own types here in America. Where I didn't do anything wrong, and now he's monetizing his celebrity in a legitimate way. If you've heard the latest stuff about him, shopping for Ferraris in Tel Aviv, no less.
Yeah. For those who don't know, this is an individual who goes on Tinder, soliciting women, getting them. I mean, his rap game must be really, really good to get these women to give him money where he can spend all sorts of other stuff. And then he got exposed because he's a gigolo. Cyber, I guess this gigolo's gotten into the cyber, electronic age. And now he's that's the thing that disturbs me. I mean, how do you this is not the way to punish bad behavior. This is celebrating bad behavior. Now he has a Netflix, series based on him. He's getting more fame through his bad deeds. Right. Shakespeare, what does Shakespeare say?
Well,
Measure for
hopefully
measure.
all the money is going to the victims, hopefully.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Some rise by sin and some by virtue fall, to quote Measure for Measure.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, every week now, the term Ponzi scheme has really made a prominent sort of presence in our lexicon, right? Mm-hmm. Every week there's a new Ponzi scheme, and Ponzi schemes used to be in the millions. Now they're billion-dollar Ponzi schemes. I mean, there was just another one, the other day, which kind of like makes you wonder about cryptocurrency and all that. I'm too old school, let's stay away from that stuff. It's sort of weird.
I mean, the whole crypto thing, it's a solution looking for a problem. What's the problem with money? Even digital money. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But in any case, no, this is awesome. I mean, I enjoy these conversations. Peter Abraham. So I have the poster right here. This is Hedda Gabler. We did this 10 years ago. It's so sad that I spoke to of course we had Richard Harder and Barbara Harder on the Yay. Mm-hmm. And they talked about everything they wanted to do for Off-Broadway West and the community that they had. But I guess they had to retire, and I guess the rent was getting pretty big. And so I
talked to Richard a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
After he had a procedure done, and he's healthy and all. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing good, and of course Barbara's taking good care of him. But
Yeah.
let's talk about you. So how did let's get into an origin story. So so you were born in Iran, and where
Iraq.
I'm sorry, Iraq.
Baghdad. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Right.
How did the theater bug bite you? I mean, how did you get involved in theater?
So it was actually back in '86 where I was working for Greenpeace at Fort Mason. If you guys know Fort Mason, it's a great place to commute to, where you're right on the water and all these big
Yeah.
buildings that used to be military. And in the uh, building next to the one where our office was various different artsy theater stuff. The Magic Theater
Mm-hmm.
was there.
Matter of fact, Bats is there now.
Life
As a
on the
matter of,
Water.
yeah, we'll be there in
Yeah.
a couple of hours. Yeah, there are lots of little
Yeah.
theater companies. I think Gateway Theater's there too.
Yeah, yeah. And but again, this is '86.
Mm-hmm.
So I was intrigued by a guy, this African American gentleman, an actor named Shabaka. I don't know if you
Oh
guys know who
yes.
he is.
Oh
Yeah,
hell yeah.
yeah. And Shabaka had a class that it was his own style of intro to acting, which we did not read any scripts. There was not any scene study per se, but what it was doing different sorts of exercises to be able to sort of liberate your body from the weight of the words and to be able to just sort of, engage in movement and all of these type of things before you ever actually picked up a script, learned it, and actually did a scene with your fellow, player. And I think that was a incredible experience for me. Whether it was vocalization, a combination of vocalization and movement. To this day, I still, on my list of things to do is to actually take a movement class and actually a speech class, because it's been a while since I've done theater. Sure, I can read a script and go up there and do whatever the best I can as far as cold reading goes. But you can never ever be so complacent to think that, you know what, man, I need to go in for a fine tune-up, because it's just things come and things go, and there's nothing wrong with sort of reclaiming some of those attributes that this gentleman Shabaka had done for me. The funny thing is, he later that year did the play The Island, South African play.
Fugard, yeah. At the
Yeah,
Fugard.
well, that's right. And it was directed by Richard Side, who later on in life became one of my teachers. And again, another style. In between that, my main teachings, and Richard Harder would know this because he also studied with Gene Shelton. Actually, Richard, back in '92 when I started studying with Gene, he filled in as a substitute teacher one day, and he had all this bravado about him, but he gave really good, down to earth, constructive criticism on, this is what you got to do, this is where you're deficient, this is where you were proficient, and so that's kind of like what happened to me as far as acting. I did a couple of plays after the first class with Shabaka at City College, and then between Greenpeace, after leaving Greenpeace, and my girlfriend at the time, after 5 years, that was where I had all this room to do nothing but do part-time jobs and then get into serious scene study with Gene Shelton in late '92. It took a while, but I started doing plays with her. She had cast me in View from the Bridge, where I play an immigrant once again, but an
Was that off?
Italian one.
Was that Off-Broadway West?
No, that was at the Shelton Theater on Sutter Street.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
know
and a
that
few other plays.
yeah, I know that Richard, that they did produce a version of a View from the Bridge. Now, the question I have for you, Peter, is, I mean, so when you were involved with, I guess, Shabaka, you must have been what, 27? I'm guessing, or
24,
huh?
24.
Okay, so
Yeah.
now, did you have an interest in theater, like say when you were a kid, or is there a reason why at that
No,
age?
no.
Go ahead.
As a kid, I had total interest in film. Uh, I, by the time I was 12, I knew of all of these actors that go back from the 20s. You know, somebody like Fatty Arbuckle, who was notorious for some of the things that he did in the Palace Hotel.
Unfairly, that poor
You know,
man.
Yeah,
yeah. But
poor
you know,
story.
fast
Yeah.
forward
Hmm.
through the 30s and 40s, even as a teenager, I loved film noir. Um, Sam Spade, and then you go into the 50s
Mickey
with
Spillane.
yeah, but I mean the 50s was, and you can mention, God bless him, rest his soul, Mr. Poitier, good old Sidney. The stuff that he did in the 50s to bring black actors to the forefront, you know, and I remember my dad, my dad was not a racist, but he was his own type of racist where he was always frustrated. Why are there so many blacks uprising like the Black Panthers? Because when we grew up in the East Bay, that's where the Black Panthers started. It was in Oakland, you know, and he would go, "Why can't they be more like polite and gentleman like Sidney Poitier? I love that guy." I go, "Well, you're talking about an expansive universe of different type of people that just happen to be of the same skin, just like Middle Eastern
Mhm.
people fight each other. We're not all the same, you know."
Well,
But anyway,
and Sidney Poitier was very much active in his way. He was involved in a lot of the protests and stuff, but he
yeah,
wasn't in the streets the way other people were. But his career choices just elevated the conversation in and of
right.
themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that his pathway of being more of an ambassador, he knew, he was sort of conservative. I would surmise in his own way, depending on what the issue was. There's a lot of African Americans or Latinos who are conservative. A lot of it's bound by the Bible. I don't know, or just the way they were brought up in general. You
Well,
know.
yeah. Well, one book that I've read, I mention it on the show all the time, Walking with the Wind. This is John Lewis's book, his version of
Mhm.
how the civil rights movement was created. He talks about the difference between Northern blacks, who has a sort of an energy of in your face, the ballad or the bullet, F you if you don't give me my rights. And those from the
Right.
South who were raised from the Bible and from, hey, we're going to protest and we're going to be beaten up and we're going to take this punishment as Christ did. And so you had two different ways of approaching the movement. And just like you said, Peter, there are different cultures, let's say, whether it be Middle Eastern or the Latino culture or the Asian culture, they go through these things as well.
Yeah. Internally through there's tribalism within the big tribe,
Yeah.
and that's always going to happen. Now you look at his parents, the actor and actress that portrayed his parents, and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. You know, that to me, those I forget their names, the actresses, but they that wasn't far fetched for a lot of African American couples of the 50s and 60s to be very low key and kind of conservative, and
I think that
again,
I think I
I
think
always go back to the Bible that
yeah.
helps them to,
Yeah.
so,
I think that was Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. Guess who's coming to dinner, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Getting back to you, so obviously, film had a big impact, and maybe you thought, it's you were looking at it as a participant, but not. Did you ever say to yourself, "Wow, maybe I can do that"?
Yeah, so there was that point where I was just curious enough where I took that class with Shabaka, and then seeing him in the play, The Island, a few months later, um, and then getting headshots to do extra work that juggled between the Greenpeace Times and for some reason, before my girlfriend and I broke up in '90, we were lucky enough to get not only be part of the production of the Doors film, because
Oh, with Val
growing
Kilmer?
up, with
Wow,
Oliver
that's awesome.
Stone.
Yeah.
But I think that the stunt coordinator liked my girlfriend a lot, and he asked me if I wanted to be a stunt extra. I go, what the heck's that mean? He's like, well, you're not going to be doing like crazy stuff, but you have to sign this waiver. And they gave me, I think, 15, $20 more for the day. And if it was 3 straight days, or I actually had to catch Val Kilmer as he's doing a stage dive. And that was at the Warfield, trying to simulate as if it was the Fillmore East, where he was doing some crazy stuff. And so doing that, getting to meet Oliver Stone, couldn't talk to Val because he's always in character,
But you caught him, right? I mean, was that him or was that a double that you were catching?
No, it was really him.
Wow.
It was really him. So that was kind of a fun experience. So the point is that was my first fully immersive experience, around a legitimate big budget movie, and there's like 137 moving parts to this mechanism, right? All going on at the same time. People running around like field hands, people screaming at each other, all that, but it was all controlled chaos, And I thought, wow, this is like interesting, It's like everybody coming together in a different form of ensembleism, if you will.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that is really, really awesome. And what an experience. And I was looking at
Yeah.
the documentary. I feel so bad for Val Kilmer, his voice. I think he has voice
Yeah, we
cancer.
watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. And the funny thing is that his son narrated it and almost sounds like a young Val Kilmer.
Wow. Yeah, so
Yeah.
cool. So talk to me about, when you studied with Gene Sheldon. I'm not going to get into, like her techniques or whatever, but I guess that connected you to Richard Harder. And I guess Richard reached out to you when I guess Off-Broadway West was coming in. Did you, was that the only production, Hedda Gabler, or had you done other things with Richard and Off-Broadway West?
Oh, well, it wasn't called Off-Broadway West, but in the same location is a Phoenix Theater there. And, Phoenix used to be on 8th and like
Geary, I
Folsom.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, way
Actually,
back.
Yeah.
No, way back was South of Market. But Linda Ayres Fredericks, she was the one that, had that space.
Yeah.
You remember a gentleman by the name of Hal Savage?
No.
So back in '03, Richard had called me, and long story short, Hal who was an actor on the side. He did other things. It was a vignette of like 4 pieces called Frisco Follies, and Hal wrote them, and they were basically sort of film noir type. And I did a small, little 1-act piece with Barbara, actually, where I play a detective, a private eye. So it's kind of very much like a Sam Spade character that I played. And again, this is back in '03, and Richard had directed the main piece, which Hal Savage and a few others were in. So it was one small piece, our piece, another piece, and then it rolled into, after intermission, into this bigger, probably like 45-minute piece that Richard had directed with Hal and a few other people. So just think about it as an anthology, right? You have a host and that talks about, well, this happened one time, and then this scene comes up, and then this is what happened with somebody else that I knew, which would have been Barbara and I in this piece, and then another piece, and then it was trippy. You don't get a lot of those type of shows where you get the little sort of vignettes, that are strung along,
Yeah.
like the tales from the crypt
Right.
type of pieces.
So is that the precursor to Off-Broadway West? I guess this was this something that was like a one and done production? There's like, a production team only for this production, and then it's gone.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, because I could not. I would go see plays, but I don't know where when Barbara and Richard picked up a more sort of formal regimented season by season structure. Sometime after that, we would go see some shows, Marianne and I, my partner. But after that, I didn't do any theater because I was so committed to my other work. Sure, I would audition for film, TV, commercial, PSAs, because at that point I had already had maybe about 15 plays under my belt, which isn't a lot, but it was enough to give me, a lot of experience and structure. I wanted to monetize it a little bit just to get some side income, That's why I was able to join the union earlier than not. I had gotten into SAG from being cast as a gunshot victim in, episode of Nash Bridges
Oh,
way back
nice.
in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then did a bunch of other things. And I mean, the way I started out, I appreciate it more than anything because Gene did practice the Stanislavski method acting. And one of the biggest takeaways that I got from that by doing theater was that you're never really acting, you're
Yeah, you
just
want to
a
make it as
cog.
real. You want to make it as real as possible.
Yeah, you're just a cog in this storytelling device called a play.
Right.
That's all you are.
Yeah.
You're not anything else.
So let's talk. Yeah, let's talk about what you're doing now, because it sounds like you've sort of elevated, or it sounds like you're still active in doing other things. Like, have you been doing like commercials or little small films, or
Only uh, uh just auditioning for small experimental films. They're union. They pay, but they don't pay the full scale. I mean, scale now for union daily basis is about $800, but some of them are scaled down to 400 or 250, and that's fine.
Yeah. Now, are you equity or SAG after, or
No, I'm
maybe
SAG
both?
after.
Got it.
I'm equity eligible, but I mean, if I can, pay the initiation fees and become equity, but it's just right now. I mean, I look back at how easy it was to be able to get up at 6 a.m, go to my day job, get off at 4, run around, do some errands, go to the theater, and do rehearsal from 5 to 10:30 or 11 at night, and then repeat the whole thing,
Yeah.
4 more days a week. But when you're younger, you're Sprite, you are an aspirant,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you are in the ether. You don't complain about fatigue. You're in the moment, you're in the zone. But as you get older and you have different shifts in your life, and for anybody, hopefully none of that has to do with their health actually, but just other stuff. Health does get in the way of some people, I know, whether it's has to do with mobility or other things that unfortunately come with aging. Me, knock on wood, turning 60, I'm pretty healthy still,
Well,
and
that's good.
I could sprint 100 yards without stopping.
Oh,
And I
that's
know that. I mean, I know that sounds like nothing, but
well, I mean, a lot of 60-year-olds can't do that. I was going to bring Norman in because we've talked a lot about equity and, like, it being I believe you're still equity, Norman.
Yeah.
But SAG-AFTRA, I don't know so much about that. Like, do they still pay the same dues? Do you know a lot about SAG-AFTRA, Norman?
I don't know a lot about it. I know, it's the Screen Actors Guild. I mean, it's what's been great in this whole time of COVID is when everybody suddenly went to Zoom, Equity was kind of hinky about that. They were still stuck in the 19th century with their agreements, and
Yeah.
SAG was like, "You're doing it on a screen? No problem. You're broadcasting it? No problem. Here's an agreement." And so it was wonderful to see that, the difference of those two unions. Equity is trying to catch up. And of course, as always, the rules keep evolving on this whole pandemic. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, what do you guys think about, just real quick, how now that they're letting folks back into the theater as the audiences go, but I know that there was different sort of concepts of doing the pay-per-view theater
Yeah.
where you know have you engaged in some of those yourself where you were
Well,
part of the ensemble?
I've done some in-person performances, or I've directed some pieces actually for
Uh-huh.
in-person performance. Um, where it was being streamed, but that's under SAG agreement. The equity agreement from the few people I've talked to who've gotten to do that is real specific. It's real limited. It's
Okay.
real specific. They want to hold on to that idea that it is live performance. So, if it steps over the line into something that just exists into perpetuity on YouTube,
Right.
Equity is trying to keep that from happening. And that makes it really hard on the producers. You have to jump through all the hoops to make something that is, that is viewable, that is watchable in that medium. And yet, the better you make it, the more frustrating it is that you can only present it either exactly at the moment that it's being performed or for maybe a week or two afterwards. They've got these real limited agreements. I
Right.
have performed live, no streaming, the whole audience masked. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, a lot
Okay.
of theater companies they've dabbled into the whole streaming thing, and maybe they've had some success monetarily, but I think a lot of them do it only temporarily. I know Tabard Theater, they've sort of switched. They've really gone gung ho into it, buying all sorts of. I mean, they've almost turned their theater into a sort of a sound stage, a sort of a stage, a television production stage,
Right.
where they're doing productions, but there's also cameras, and it looks very, very professional. If you have the money to do that, you can do that, but it's no guarantee that you'll get the audience. So I think it's hit and miss for a lot
Right.
of theater companies.
Yep. Yep.
I was gonna ask you, Peter, because you began the conversation about the whole concept of doing auditions via film. I mean, via video. There are a lot of
Self-taping. Yeah.
self-taping. There are a lot of actors who are like, oh, I'd rather be in front of the director or whatever. I'd rather get the vibe of having the audition face to face. I take it you prefer the video better. Is that true?
No, no. As an actor, you have to adapt and be a chameleon, whether it's within the character realm of things or the properties of how you are going to project yourself. Either way, just shut up, don't gripe. These are the times we live in. Just do it and move on.
Right.
I mean, there's bigger fish to fry. Just comply with them. No, nobody wants to hear somebody gripe that way. Gripe about your taxes or about where your taxes are
Right.
going,
Right.
right? But
Right.
not that. You just have to all embrace feedback and deal
Yeah.
with the given circumstances.
Yeah, and really that's what evolution is all about. Even evolution as far as the arts is concerned. Everyone is doing these things. I notice a lot of casting directors. They'll say, "Hey, put it on YouTube, even if it's private, and give us the link, and we'll have it." And the advantage of that is that you can audition for a bunch of companies using the same monologue, or I can do a bunch of
Right.
monologues, just throw
You
it
can
up
do
on
that.
YouTube or whatever it is. And
Right.
anytime I'm asked to, audition for a role, I can say, "Hey, okay, here's the link." Boom, 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 boom. So,
It's a lot easier than recording something and then sending it, um, you know, through this giant file that literally takes 40 minutes
oh,
to
sure.
load it. I mean, it's just, man, you know that. It's
Absolutely. Yeah.
massive.
I'll wrap it up. So, where do you see yourself in the future? I mean, are you happy with how things are? Are you a frustrated actor? Are you just very content? Do you want to move on to do bigger and better things?
No, I'm content only to the extent of uh, being of sound mind and decent body. I've been losing weight, and I've I want to sort of gradually reinvent myself. I see myself as it's like um, here's the way I look at it. I'm positive about my future as an actor only because you're always still going to need people who become older, and depending on your, like, all of us have our unique look, and you got to have optimism, and you got to have faith in that there's going to be something where opportunity knocks in the future. Yeah, sure, the whole industry is all about youth movement and all that, and that's fine. So what? There's a role out there for all of us to play somebody's father or uncle, or big brother.
Yeah, and the
You just
cool
got to believe that.
Yeah, and the cool thing about you is you're the type of actor you can play pretty much all sorts of ethnicities. I mean, you can be an Italian mobster, you can be,
Hey,
the
forget about
shocker,
it.
right? Exactly. And actually,
You know,
before I realized that you were from Iraq, I thought that you were Italian. But
yeah,
but I mean, the chameleon. You can play all sorts of, and I'm sure you
culturally
different roles.
ambiguous.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah. That's not a bad thing. I know.
no, it's
You
not a
know.
bad thing at all, and it keeps you
Yeah.
it keeps you in the loop as far as directors who are looking for someone who can play multiple roles, and
Right.
you're a veteran
Right.
enough that you can do that, yet you still have the vitality to do it, and you're a great presence on stage. I mean, when we did Hedda Gabler, I was waiting. Hey, what's the next thing that Peter's going to do? Because did you have fun doing Hedda Gabler?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I did. Very much so. I mean, I came in near the middle of rehearsal, and it was a little bit challenging to kind of get up to speed. Um, it wasn't Eugene O'Neill, but it was still 4 acts.
Yeah,
You know, and it's hard to keep a play of that period time moving so that the audience stays captivated, and so that it keeps moving, because you can have a lot of booby traps if it's not executed properly.
well, sure.
um
It's very much a period piece, and from what I remember correctly, because I was the stage manager, I think
yeah,
Richard sort of grabbed you, needing someone. I'm not sure if it was at the last minute. I'm not sure what happened to the other actor, but he was very, very grateful to have you, and I mean, you sort of gave it a modern feel. I mean, you didn't act like a period actor with all the gestures and all of the other things. I think that you sort of kept it grounded and help the
yeah,
audience keep it grounded as well. So that was just my
yeah.
my basic observation.
No, and I appreciate it. It was a hell of an experience. Everybody was it was a eclectic group of players.
Yeah,
Everybody
very
kind of came from a different background. you
right,
know
right,
uh,
exactly. We had Cecilia Palmtag on, and she talked about her method, and I've had Adam Simpson on. So it's been
oh, have
interesting to
you?
hear. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Way, way, way
uh
back in 2017. So
oh, okay, wow. So there's still other people, maybe like Jocelyn or whoever else, to kind of,
yeah,
have you talked
I
to
don't know.
her?
I don't know what Jocelyn's doing these days. Also, I've
I think
talked to
she moved
Sylvia.
up to Chico.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and also Sylvia Creighton's. She's been more involved with Central Works, but
Right.
I know that she did a I think she did an Off-Broadway West play, but I think she was also the costume designer for a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff.
Yeah, she's
But
great at that.
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, it's 11:33, so I think we should close it up. Norman,
Well, and
shout
I
outs.
just want to one comment on
Sure.
the thing, because you talked about your training and then you talk about Hedda Gabler, and it's so amazing that sort of contemporary way of approaching acting when you can really dig into one of those older pieces is gorgeous.
Yeah,
When you
and
can
Yeah.
bring that to life, these pieces end up, they can be like a museum piece. They can be very kind of archaic if you can manage to dig in and give them some of that energy that is very much a part of modern acting. It's kind of gorgeous.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you did, Peter. I mean, the because I think you were, I forget the character that you played, but you were sort
Judge
of the,
Brack.
yeah, Judge Brock. And
Yeah.
I could tell that the audience felt, okay, so this is, and also, oh shucks, who was the ladies fell in love with him, the sort of the male ingenue. I forget the dude's name. Um,
Um,
yeah, but in any case,
yeah.
both the two of you sort of gave it the modern, the audience felt, oh, this is not, these aren't classical actors. This is a sort of a modern actor, sort of what Marlon Brando did. I mean, one of the reasons why Marlon Brando is so well celebrated is that while everyone else is still doing the, standard American English and all of these ways of, that they've been taught how to act, and Brando really brought in the method to give it a sort of earthiness, a sort of
Right.
realness. And
I'm glad you brought that up
yeah,
because real quick, I know you got to wrap it up.
no,
So,
no, no, go right ahead.
the way that Ibsen wrote that, it makes the actor almost be compelled to get into that sort of Victorian like
That's right.
mannerism and the inflection and the tone and all that. But you can't exert it to a point where it starts becoming cheesy and hammy. You know, you is less is more in
That's
this
right.
case,
That's right.
because then just those little colors come out just enough to give the audience that thing. And if the rest of it is sort of like, well, this actor has one foot in the 20th century, so be it. But as long as you're real and authentic about it, it's okay. And it's
Right.
palatable
Yeah.
for the audience to absorb, you
Exactly. And
know?
the audience needs to understand what's going on. They can see all these mannerisms and the Victorianisms, but if they don't know what's
Right,
going on in the play, and if an
right.
actor can sort of ground it so that the audience can say, okay, I now understand what's going on. And of course, your character, Brock, he sort of, pushes the stakes because, there's a time sensitive thing and there's a document that's missing and it's going to be burned and all of
Right.
that stuff. And so, you sort of, not
He's
only
got a
just
big ego. He's full of himself and he's a powerful figure in the community,
that's
you know?
exactly right. That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So no, so I just wanted to, you may think, oh, gee, that was 2010. No one remembers that. I totally remember it. And I remember, the great performance that you had in that.
I appreciate it. It was fun doing that. At some point, I know I'm going to do a play again. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't even care if it's a small piece because, as you know, there are no small parts. There's only small
Ah,
actors.
That's exactly right.
sweet word, yes.
Your camera cut off, Peters. You may want to cut it off and cut it back on. But
I don't know. Am I there?
yeah. But while you're doing that, Norman, you want to get into birthdays, shout outs?
Birthdays, not that many this week.
I don't
Yay.
have any
Uh,
either. I don't have
yeah,
a lot either.
I,
Go
I
ahead.
Meg Patterson is somebody it's one of those people, she is one of those people that I met as I was running around as an actor new in the field, and I felt like I kept bumping into her. Never really got to work with her, but she was always doing casting production. I think she worked with Kaiser Permanente at one point, in their amazing outreach program. Jeffrey Beer is one of what people in the Bay Area probably mostly know Jeffrey as is a teacher. He teaches acting. He teaches different styles of acting. He's very rooted in the sort of Asian Japanese movement, Suzuki and that sort of thing. But he's also an amazing director and actor. I've gotten to see him do all of that, and it's been a joy. His birthday's coming up this week. Lewis Campbell started the Multicultural Theater Project, which was working on the backside of a church over in San Francisco for the longest time. It was always neat to go see the shows, and Lewis had a way of finding the new talent in the Bay Area, so that was always cool. Rika Anderson, whose name I misspelled, is somebody I met through Central Works, also a very powerful actor, director, and she runs a program called Actors Reading Writers at the Women's Club, the Berkeley City Club in Berkeley. I think they do monthly stuff. It's very cool. Richard Squirry is a fight choreographer and teacher. I met him when I was up at the East Bay Center for the Performing Arts, and sitting in on his class and watching all the squirrely kids get very quiet as he brought out all these cool weapons, set them all out on a table behind him, and then proceeded to talk to them for 2 classes before he even let them touch them was so amazing. He just had them hanging. I was like, I wish I had a trick like that. Michael Muhammad is a East Bay black director. Ed Gonzalo Moreno. I'm not even sure he's in the Bay Area anymore, but he was a young actor who I got to intersect with briefly before he was making noises about heading off to LA. Renee Walker is a costumer. I've gotten to work with her in numerous companies, African American Shakespeare Company, the Word for Word, and I think most recently she got to do one of the big seasons with Playground, their festival. And then the last one I have is Lex Chesler. Um, Lex I met through improv, Bay Area theater sports, which is funny because we will be in the Bats Theater today at 6 o'clock. So I'm hoping some other people will come out there. When we talked about making the arrangements to be in the space, and I mentioned that I knew a lot of these old Bats folks, all these names got thrown out, and I said, please tell them we're doing this. I would love to see them. Anyway, those are my birthday shout outs for the week.
Yeah, speaking of bats, I think remember we had the interview with oh shucks, what is the woman's name? I acted with her. She worked either she works at bats or she worked at bats. Oh, shame on me. Okay, I
Oh,
don't get old,
no,
folks.
I'm drawing a blank. No.
Yeah, she was a young blonde woman. Any case,
Hmm.
I'll think of her. Any case, so you took mine. That was Michael Muhammad. On the
But
24th,
I
that was
left you one.
yes, you did. Lily Tongue Crystal, her birthday was on the 24th, and of course, she used to run Ferocious Lotus, and now she's in Minnesota,
Minneapolis,
Minneapolis, Minnesota,
doing Moo, Theater Moo.
Theater Moo. Um, so on the 28th will be Matt Hohensee, and Matt Hohensee was the musical director when we did, oh shucks, where's that poster? Bat Boy the musical, and he was fantastic.
When was that
Um,
one? I remember that.
yeah, Bat Boy the musical, that was done by Ray of Light Theater. Oh boy, I could tell
Victorian? Was it?
tons of story. Yeah, it was at the Victorian Theater. We had one musical director who got drunk and was hitting on the girls, and so I, as a stage manager, had to fire him. And so we brought in Matt Hohensee. So that was very, very funny. Any case, Matt Hohensee, he's 43 years old. Happy birthday, Matt. Mike Muhammad, you left me. You took that, and his father passed away recently. So we want to, give our
Oh.
thoughts and prayers to his dad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Linda Huang. I'm trying to get her on. She's a stage manager, and she was like, "Oh, no one wants to hear about me." I'm like, "No, no, no, no. You're part of the theater experience too." So I'm trying to bring her on. As a matter of fact, she's stage manager a couple of Off-Broadway West stuff because I brought her in,
Mm-hmm.
and so her birthday is March the 2nd. She's been taking a lot of time taking care of her dad,
Ah.
who's getting up in age. But in any case, Linda, happy birthday to you. Roxanne Enriquez, another ex-Bendel Stipper, a Philippine model. She's in LA now. She's one of those who she did the Bendel Stiff thing in the Bay Area and then immediately went to LA to try her lot, and she's still there. So happy birthday to
Okay, so
you.
maybe it's working.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Did
And
you,
the
did you mention Bindle Stiff Theaters?
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, on 6th Street there.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
I've done a bunch of stuff there. Did you ever where do you, have you ever
I
acted
did
in
a I did a scene night there way back like in '94, and one of the guys that was in there. Sorry to jump in, but
It's
I
okay.
just
No, that's awesome.
because that it was 6th Street is so funky still, and but then the guy who's going to direct this play version of Frankenstein, he goes, I think you'll want to do it. I go, why? He goes, we're trying to get Carol Doda, the late stripper
Yeah.
from the North Beach, to be in the play. And I said, that's enough incentive right there for me.
Wow. Hey, now
Yeah.
that would be a very cool story. Yeah, that
Anyway,
must
that
have
brought
been
back memory.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And the very last birthday that I have is Wiley Herman. I think you left that for me. So
No, well, I did, but there's one other one too. Go for it.
right, exactly. So Wiley, he was one who he and I acted. we were part of EastEnders Repertory Company, and so he and I were on stage. I think we did Wonder of the World, I think, and he was one who has transitioned, and he, of course, we had him on the Yay, and he did what was the film by Boots Riley, Sorry to Bother You. So and he had a speaking role, so he's doing some great things, and those are the birthdays that I have. You had one more?
Yeah, EJ Gibson,
Oh, how did I miss
who
him?
we had on the Yay way back when I was doing Death of a Salesman. Yeah, or right
Yeah.
afterward. Yeah.
So I wonder what he's doing these days.
I don't know.
No?
He was doing, remember, he was juggling film. He was doing more film than he was doing stage at the time, and he wasn't sure where he was going to go. It'd be interesting to find out.
Yeah. All right, shows.
I've got a bunch of different things. There's, I don't know if you have this Golden Thread Productions. We start Women's History Month next month, and they're doing something called Making Home. And I put the link in the chat if you want to grab that. But that's What Do Women Say 2022, Making Home. So they're going to be talking about that. I'm trying to find a link for this thing that is going to be bouncing between Brava in San Francisco and the Aurora in Berkeley. It's a mini theater festival, Bay Area Women's Theater Festival, and I can't find the link for them yet, but it's put together by a fellow SFSU alum, Catherine Sebron. We were both founding artists with the African American Shakespeare Company, and she has put together this little festival of new works. It's going to be running, looks like every Monday night. So March, April, and May. I'll make sure I have more information for next week. This is the Magic Theater is hosting. So they have just Sean San Jose Blackman has taken over as the artistic director. His company Campo Santo is going to become a resident company under the Magic, and they are doing a thing they did last night, and they will do it again tonight. I think it's just a reading of a new play, Shelter, by Bennett Fisher. So that's going to be at the Magic Theater. And then one of our birthday people from last week, Brian Herndon, wanted me to make sure that he got picked up by Marin Theater Company, is doing Passover, and this is their closing weekend, and he's in that. So I didn't get details on what happened, but he had posted on Facebook saying, so I got this phone call, and here I am, like less than 3 days later, on stage in the show for the end of their run. So I think those are all the ones I have.
Okay.
Club Fugazi, but I don't really know. I think that's just an ongoing thing at Club Fugazi. It's a lot of acrobatics is what it looks like. There's a beautiful video.
All
Oh,
right.
and I wanted to make sure I got in. Michael Asbury is at the Sacramento Theater Company in August Wilson's Fences, which runs March
Wow.
13th. Yeah, he's playing Troy. He's playing the lead. So very happy about that. Those are the ones I've got.
All right. Well, obviously, I'm going to push the Baldwin Project. We are doing a reading today at the Bayfront Theater, Fort Mason, at 6 p.m.
Right.
Myself,
By the time this gets posted, we should be on our way there.
right, exactly. Well, I think I can put this up, before 1 or 2, so people can listen, can still make it
Mm.
there. And I'll have the link to the Baldwin Centennial Project. And even if you can't make it, this will be an ongoing thing. There may be other readings. There obviously
There
the
will
plays
be
in
other readings
development.
starting next year, February next
Yep.
year.
So we'll give you the link and continue to follow this
Yeah, I
collection
was gonna
of.
ask you that. I'll just opt in and I'll always get the like weekly alerts or whatever.
There,
Yeah,
well, there won't be very many alerts between now and beginning of next year because this was just a sneak peek. We just started doing
Ah,
research development on the piece. We'll do a series of readings starting February 2023. But we have a website, baldwincentennialproject.com, and if people sign up there, yes, you will get all updates. There will be things that are not theater related, like this showing today, I Am Not Your Negro. We'll be trying to
mhm.
connect to all things Baldwin for the next year and a half.
Yep. And we'll have the link.
Baldwin Centennial Project.
.com.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
And once I post it, we'll have the link so you can just click onto it. And also, if you subscribe to the Yay, we'll always be talking about that and other things going on. So there's that.
Right.
That's happening today. Also, Carmelo Triangio, I think that's his last name, Mallory's boyfriend, is in 150 Years of
Oh, I
Gilbert and
meant
Sullivan. the
Yes.
Lamplighters. They're doing that. 150 Years of Gilbert and Sullivan. So that should be real fun. So that's sort of a musical theater thing. And that'll be March the 5th and the 6th, 2 p.m. And there are tickets. I think you can view it and also attend it, but we'll have the link so you can see that. Jeffrey Lowe, his play Viet Gong is still playing at the City Lights Theater. Well, will be March the 24th, April 24th. Eiko Yamamoto had told me something. Hold on for just a second. She wanted me to, oh shucks. Okay, I'll get back to that. Carmen is still going on. That'll end tomorrow. Brenna Kimmerly, and she was a guest on the A. She is in that. operasanjose.org. Carmen, we'll have a link to that if you're into that. Escape from the Asylum. This is a Central Works piece. They are rehearsing right now, but they will be on stage March the 17th through April the 17th. Alan Coyne, Jens Leifler is in the show. Gary Graves will be directing, and we'll have a link to that. Dot, we've been talking about Dot a long time, New Conservatory Theater. That begins March the 4th. Sean J. West had posted that they are in tech, and I've never seen someone so excited about being in tech, because usually that's hell week. But in any case, that'll be March 4th, April 3rd. Kim Donovan, Kimberly Ridgway is in the show. Sean J. West will be directing it. Let's see. Also, tomorrow is the last, Monday, March 28th is the last day for looking into the class taught by Dr. Stephanie Johnson. We've had her on, teaching a class on lighting, hosted by the Oakland Theater Project, The Magic of Lighting. And March 28th is the last day, and we'll have a link to that. The Hollow, City Lights Theater is doing The Hollow.
Oh, March 28th, you said? That's next month.
March, oh, you know what, you're right. I'm thinking February 28th. You're right. It's March the 7th to the 28th. So it will not be ending.
So it hasn't even started, and people can sign up.
That's exactly right. Thank you for correcting me. That's important. Hollow, City Lights Theater. That is still going on. It'll end March the 6th, and Yubi Kobori is in that show. So check that out. And 3 podcasts. Barry Graves is doing Black Man's Heart. So check that out on all of your podcasts app. Mallory Samara, her day job is KCBS Radio, and she's doing Connect the Dots, a weekly news podcast. So check that out. And Bindlestiff has a podcast called the Fobcast. So check out the Fobcast, exploring Philippine American immigrant stories. There it is. Peter, did you have a good time?
Yes, I did. I really appreciate it to be now associated with episode number 224. I appreciate it. Can you hear me, by the way? Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We can hear you. We can see you, and that's awesome.
I wanted to ask real quick.
Sure.
In the last 223 episodes, did you guys ever interview a gentleman? He's from Nigeria, Lisbon Okafor, director. You know who he is?
No. I'm writing the name down.
Yeah, Lisbon, and then as in Portugal, and then Okafor. He did a film called Oakville back a few years ago, and I don't know him that well, but I've always appreciated his sort of style as he continues to, find budgets and all that. Check it out, and see if you could maybe one day. I think he would be an interesting interviewee. For the record.
Yeah, well, definitely. Now, is he involved with it sounds like he does film. Does he do theater? Has he done Bay Area theater?
No film, but I would think that he still might be somebody who would be interesting to interview, because of a lot of the people that he cast also come from a theater background. And I always thought that might be a good take to try to see how, as a film director, how he inadvertently can be influenced by theater, if that makes sense.
No. I've totally written his name down, and we'll check that out. Morgan Pavey.
Yeah.
Morgan Pavey is the one who remember her? I think she works at Theater Bats. She mentioned working at Theater Bats, and I'm not sure she's still down. Do you remember her?
Morgan is your name?
Morgan Pavey? Yeah.
Huh. No.
And I talked about Eiko Yamamoto. She will be playing Emily Whitman in Follies, the Sondheim piece. That'll be at the San Francisco Playhouse, and she's going to be a recurring. She's going to be a guest on the A in a couple of weeks. She was on in 2017, and she and I have been basically IMing each other. Every time, when we first interviewed Echo, she was just a young actress. She was she was married, she just had a child, and she was getting back into the theater scene. And since then, since 2017, she has been doing a bunch of stuff. She's an equity actress now, and she's about to take a job out of town. So her acting career has really, really blossomed, and she's been doing a bunch of stuff. And so she's very excited. And it's always cool when people use the A to promote their things. And they're like, hey, can you talk about this thing that I'm doing? So, hey, use us. This is what the A is all about. So thank you so much. And thank you, Peter, for being a fantastic guest. And I know you haven't been on stage for a while, but you're still part of the Bay Area experience. I mean, you're part of the history of Bay Area theater. So I'm glad that you came on.
I'm not leaving. Yeah.
right
Thank
on.
you. And it was Norman, it was a pleasure to meet you, even if it was through the wonders
Virtual.
of electronics.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Better than nothing. I hope to see you guys in person at some point, literally at some point in the next maybe a few months, as time and opportunities permit. It'd be nice to just kind of all be together, watch some piece together and chat and have a coffee, tea, or drink afterwards.
Yeah, that'll be nice. And before I forget, we still have jerseys. I've got the jerseys right here, and you can buy a white one, a black one. We have the pinstripe ones. They're $30. You can just PM me. You can Venmo me the money. It'll be $30, and I'll make sure that you get it. And this supports the A and everything that we're doing. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Hit the bell button so that you can get updates when we have a new episode on. If you're listening to us on the podcast, we're on all podcast apps. We're still debating about whether we want to still be on Spotify, but we're on pretty much everything else, including the purple podcast app that you have on your iPhone and iPad. And if you're an Android user, you can use the SoundCloud app, or just go on soundcloud.com and you will find us. The Yay was created by theater people for theater people. If you have a show you want to advertise, or if you just want to advertise yourself, let us know. Hit us up. We're on Twitter, the Yay3. That's our official Twitter feed. I'm at Reg Space Clay.
I'm at Hoosier.
Peter, are you on social media at all?
You can find me, Peter Abraham, on Facebook.
Yeah.
Or on LinkedIn.
Got it. Sounds good. You're not doing the TikTok and all of that sort of stuff. I'm sure you're not on OnlyFans.
I'm trying to cut down, guys.
Now,
anyway, thanks again for both of you.
Yeah, the OnlyFans thing was just a joke. You know about OnlyFans, right?
Right.
Yeah. But in any case, okay, thank you so much. It is a wonderful Saturday afternoon. It's about to become an afternoon. Norman, I will see you in a couple of hours. Thank you so much, everybody. And as Norman and I always say, we gotta find a better sign off. And we are out.